Take a look at the smartphone you're probably holding right now. For decades, the absolute beating heart of our mobile connectivity was this tiny removable piece of plastic with a little gold chip on it. We've all seen them. But recently, that physical chip has quietly just vanished from a lot of modern devices, and it's been replaced by something entirely invisible. So do you actually know what replaced your physical SIM card? And honestly, more importantly, do you know what happens to your digital security when your mobile identity moves from a physical piece of plastic right up into the cloud?
Today, we are demystifying the eSIM in this explainer. We're going to uncover the hidden hardware magic that makes this technology tick, and, well, frankly, we're going to expose the systemic cloud vulnerabilities it introduces. I absolutely love breaking down complex tech like this, mainly because it literally impacts almost every single one of us.
Before we get too deep into the weeds, let's define what we're actually talking about here. An eSIM, which is technically known as an EUIC, or Embedded Universal Integrated Circuit Card, is a digital SIM. But here's the catch. It's not just software. It is a highly sophisticated physical chip that is literally soldered directly onto your device's motherboard. You can't take it out. It performs exactly the same functions as those traditional SIM cards we're used to, but it handles the whole shebang via software programming, completely eliminating the need to physically swap out cards.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, the promise of the eSIM. Then, we'll look under the technical hood. Next, network authentication. After that, we're going to explore some new cyber vulnerabilities. And finally, protecting your digital life. All right, let's dive right in.
Section 1. The promise of the eSIM.
Now, this is the consumer-facing side of the tech, the exact reasons telecom companies and device manufacturers have been hyping this shift so much. Think about the old physical SIMs for a second. They're removable, sure, but they require a physical tray that eats up highly precious internal space inside your phone. And remember changing carriers, you had to wait days for a physical card to arrive in the mail or physically drive to a store. On the flip side, the eSIM is soldered and non-removable, but because it's completely digital, it supports multiple profiles. So instead of fumbling with a paperclip to pop a tray out, you just scan a QR code or use an app, and boom, instant activation.
So what's the actual payoff for you, the consumer? First off, removing that physical SIM tray is a huge win for manufacturers. In the hardware engineering world, every single millimeter inside a smartphone is prime real estate. That recovered space, it means room for larger batteries or way better internal antennas. Second, without a gaping hole in the side of your phone, you get vastly improved water and dust resistance. Third is flexibility. Some of the premium smartphones out there let you store up to 10 different carrier profiles at once. You can seamlessly switch between a personal line, a work line, or a travel profile. And finally, think about theft prevention. If someone steals your phone today, they can't just pop out the SIM card to quickly take it offline.
Section 2. Under the technical hood. Okay, so how does this actually work? Let's move past the marketing talk and look at the architecture sitting right there on your motherboard. The eSIM isn't just some generic flash drive. It actually consists of 3 main components. First, there's the secure element. I want you to think of this as an isolated, super encrypted vault where your carrier profiles, like your network identity and encryption keys, are safely locked away. Second, it runs its very own embedded operating system, usually Java card, to manage all the security applets. And third, it has a dedicated interface to communicate with the baseband modem. The baseband is essentially the chip managing all your radio frequencies, GSM, 4G, 5G, all of that. So, if the secure element is the vault, the baseband is basically the mailman that actually goes out and talks to the cellular network.
Let's look at the actual magic of how a carrier gets downloaded onto that chip. When you scan a QR code to activate a new plan, Step 1. Your phone reaches out to a highly secure carrier server called the SMDP+. Think of this server as a cloud-based registry holding your network identity. Step 2. This server sends your profile, completely encrypted, right over the public internet to your device. Step 3. Your phone decrypts it locally and securely locks it inside that eSIM vault we just talked about. And finally, Step 4. The baseband modem gets a little notification that a new SIM profile is ready for use. From that second onward, the baseband treats it exactly as if you had just shoved a physical piece of plastic into the phone.
Section 3. Network authentication.
So how does this digital profile actually prove to the telecom network that you are, well, you? It all comes down to the security handshake, which uses something called the ISO/IEC 7816 protocol. Step 1, your phone's baseband sends your IMSI out to the network. That's essentially your digital passport. Step 2, the network's central database replies with a random challenge. It's basically a really complex mathematical puzzle. Step 3, and this is absolutely crucial, the eSIM takes that puzzle and calculates an encrypted response using a highly classified secret key called the key. This key literally never leaves the isolated vault of the secure element. Step 4, your phone sends the answer back, and if the math checks out, boom, access granted. The fact that this calculation happens in total isolation makes the physical security of the eSIM incredibly robust.
Moving right along to Section 4, new cyber vulnerabilities.
But, and this is a massive but, we really need to shatter the illusion of perfect security here. Moving our identities from physical plastic to remote cloud provisioning, that opens up some entirely new and pretty scary vectors for attack. Just take a look at this new threat landscape. First up, profile interception. Because your SIM is literally downloaded over the internet, if that secure channel gets compromised, an attacker could theoretically intercept your profile before it's encrypted on your device. It's a medium severity risk because it's pretty tough to pull off, but definitely not impossible. Next, we have baseband exploits. If hackers find a flaw in your modem's firmware, they could potentially inject malicious commands directly into the eSIM. That is high severity. And finally, profile cloning. If a bad actor manages to hack the carrier's cloud server itself, they could generate an identical clone of your eSIM profile and drop it straight onto their own device.
This introduces a pretty terrifying concept, over-the-air manipulation. Because eSIMs are programmed remotely using APIs, if those APIs or even just your personal carrier account are compromised, an attacker doesn't even need to be in the same country as your physical phone. They can remotely delete your profile, completely cutting off your service. Or worse, they could inject a fake carrier profile. Just imagine a highly targeted attack where your phone is invisibly connected to a malicious operator, and they're quietly intercepting your calls, your texts, and yes, your banking one-time passwords.
And the threats don't stop at the firmware level. They target you directly too. First, phishing. Hackers are now blasting out fake QR codes via email that say, hey, activate your new eSIM. You scan it, and you might just be handing over your phone line. Second, malicious apps. If a shady app manages to get the right permissions, it could exploit the API to erase or swap your profile. But third, and honestly the most common, carrier account takeover. This is absolutely critical to understand. The hacker just needs your carrier password. If they log into your carrier's web portal, they can just request a new eSIM profile to be sent to their phone, effectively stealing your phone number from anywhere in the world.
Section 5, protecting your digital life. So we are dealing with a systemic risk here. The convenience is undeniably amazing, but the keys to your entire digital identity are now floating in the cloud. So here are your 6 rules of defense. Rule 1. You absolutely must protect your carrier account with a strong, unique password and 2-factor authentication. That web portal is the new front door to your phone. Rule 2. Only ever scan QR codes directly from official carrier portals, never from some random text or email. Rule 3. Always keep your phone's firmware updated to patch those baseband vulnerabilities. Rule 4. Never root or jailbreak your device. Doing that breaks the strict isolation of that secure element vault we talked about. Rule 5. If your phone suddenly loses its cellular network connection for no apparent reason, be highly suspicious. It could mean your profile was just hijacked. And Rule 6. Clean house. If you have old, inactive travel profiles you don't use anymore, just delete them.
Before we wrap up, it's really vital that we address the elephant in the room, the illusion of anonymity. A lot of people out there seem to think that because they can rapidly swap digital eSIM profiles, they are somehow untraceable. I'm here to tell you that is entirely false. Your device's physical IMEI number, it never changes. Your geographical cell ID tracking, that remains totally constant. Telecom operators still know exactly where you are and exactly what piece of hardware you are holding, no matter how many digital SIMs you cycle through. The tracking is still total.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Today, we've explored the incredible hardware magic that makes this space-saving, multi-profile technology possible in the first place. But we've also stared down the stark reality of over-the-air manipulation and cloud-based cloning. So I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder. Is the pure convenience of a dematerialized chip actually worth handing the keys to your digital identity over to the cloud? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious, stay secure, and I'll catch you next time.